Hello everyone, and welcome to the Synology training. We have an awesome topic for everyone here today, going over how to create a private cloud with Synology Drive. Quick introduction, my name's Cody, and I'm a product manager here at Synology, and I'll be your guide for this one this time around. Before we dive into the agenda for today, let's discuss what we mean by a private cloud. Now, cloud services, when they first began, really just meant using someone else's computer and infrastructure to accomplish some of your IT needs. You get a lot of great benefits like anywhere access, scalability, but you also had to pay subscription fees for all these different services that you're offering. Now, by using Synology Drive as your private cloud, you still have some on-premise equipment that you will be maintaining. However, you get the same great cloud benefits that you would get from a public provider. So let's see how we can build that today. Now, on the agenda today, we're going to start off by taking a look at the Drive components so we know all the different pieces to this puzzle. We're then going to take a look at how we can start building the foundation using the Synology Drive admin console to set everything up. We're then going to move into the anywhere access options that you have, such as the Drive web portal and collaboration features like Synology Office, so you can get the most out of your Synology Drive server. We're then going to round things out by taking a look at multi-site scalability so you can grow this system as your organization does. Moving on into section 1 for Synology Drive components. When you go to install your Synology Drive server from Package Center, it's actually going to install 3 different modules on your NAS. The first among these is going to be your admin console. This is a control panel for admins to manage the entire Synology Drive environment and set up its initial foundation. Next, you also have the Synology Drive web portal. And the web portal is a web-based collaboration hub that's very similar to Google Drive or Dropbox that your users can actually interact with. Next, we have Synology Drive ShareSync, and ShareSync allows for syncing of multiple NAS together, typically in a hub and spoke setup. And finally, we also have clients and mobile applications that you can utilize with your Synology Drive server, allowing you to sync data on the go from those devices. Now that we've done a quick overview of the Synology Drive components, let's move into section 2, getting started in creating this Synology Drive foundation. To begin with our Synology Drive environment, we're going to start off with the admin console. And again, this is the main control panel for your admins to build the foundation of your Synology Drive environment. You can manage client connections to your Synology Drive environment and actually revoke connectivity for those devices if they're no longer needed, for example. You can also do Version Explorer operations inside of the admin console. The admin level Version Explorer will give you access to all the different versions across any files inside of your Synology Drive environment, so long as versioning is enabled on them. And you can also create user sync profiles. This will allow you to restrict what types of files your users can actually sync with the Synology Drive environment at both the individual and the group level. On top of that, there's also other data security features available in Synology Drive, such as watermarks, allowing you to help prevent data leaks of sensitive data. There's also download restrictions, which will stop users from downloading data if they don't have permissions to do so. And also remote wipe features, a handy feature, especially if you're offloading any employees, maybe they're moving on to another opportunity. You can use this remote wipe feature whenever you remove the client access to actually remove any synced data on those various endpoints. So let's check all this out. So here we are on our main Synology NAS. We're going to be setting up Synology Drive by first taking a look at the admin console. So we're going to open that up. Your main screen is going to be your main overview of the entire Synology Drive environment. There's a couple other options down the left-hand side on the various tabs. Client list is where your clients will live once you join them to the system. And there's logs if you need to monitor those, and also team folders and advanced features. Under team folders, you're going to be able to enable things like My Drive and also other team folder locations. My Drive is your user's own personal space inside of the Synology Drive environment. So My Drive is basically your user home environment. So to enable that, you can click the link here and actually go to the user homes in control panel and enable them. Once that is done, you're going to be able to actually interact with your My Drive environment after you finish with this wizard. So now your users have their own personal space, but what about collective workspaces? That's going to be where you want to enable this multi-site file server folder, for example. That's going to be the name of our main shared folder we'll interact with for file serving. If we enable this, it'll automatically bring it into the Synology Drive environment so we can interact with it through sync tasks, the web portal, etc. We're going to be able to set the versioning for this folder in televersioning if you want to just keep the most relevant versions, and you can select your rotation schedule here. Now, the security tab is a fairly new feature in Synology Drive. It's going to be where you can enable restrictive downloads or also watermarks. We're going to get to those advanced features in just a moment. Now that we got that enabled, we set up the personal space as well as the collective workspace that we can use in Drive. Under the advanced features, we're going to want to activate this feature inside of Synology Drive. Now, keep in mind this is license free, and the only reason why you need to activate this feature is so that we can monitor who's using Synology Drive in this way, and we can continue committing development resources to making Synology Drive that much better. So once we've activated this, and again, this is license free, we can continue on with the admin console. Now that we have this all activated, we can enable things like remote wipe, restrictive downloading, and also the watermarking. So if you go back to that actual team folder, the multi-site file server, and go to security, we can enable restrictive file downloading and also enable our watermarking. So you can customize your text here, and you can use other values like the username, etc. if you wanted to right here, or you could just label it using this text box. You can also change the font color for this watermark. We're going to make ours red to make it quite noticeable. And that's pretty much it for actually enabling the watermark. So now anything that you actually download or preview inside of Synology Drive with this enabled is going to have that watermark. Now that that's all done, we're going to go to the settings options, and under general, it's going to be a wide range of admin level operations you can do under settings. So you can do content indexing settings, you can do direct access to hybrid share for C2 storage, etc. You're not going to need to change too much of this if you want to set up your Synology Drive environment for the first time, but it's important to note where some of these things are, like final ownership transfer. If your users are actually leaving the organization, you can transfer their files to another. So that's a handy feature to know about in the future. Now, under user sync profiles, you can create sync profiles on a user or group basis. This is going to allow you to restrict what types of files they can actually sync across. So you can expand the music, video, image options here and see all the different file types that are currently listed. Now, if you have a file type you don't want to sync, for example, you can actually go ahead and select that file extension in the bar along the bottom and actually choose a file type that may not be listed in our list in case you have some custom file types, for example. And then you can, of course, choose where you actually want this user sync profile to be applied to. This can be your local users, domain users and groups, etc. Now, once this is all done, you can go into the sharing menu and change some of your sharing settings. You can allow or disallow file sharing, allow public sharing, and enforce other rules like password protection, as well as your sharing link expiration. You can also customize your sharing link down at the bottom using your Quick Connect ID, DDNS, for example, or even a customized domain. Now that we've walked through creating the My Drive and team folder locations, we've set the foundation for Synology Drive so we can do share syncing later on and also sync tasks with the client, which we'll get to in just a bit. So let's take a look at our diagram for today. This will be our guide through today's session, and we will be building upon it as we continue to interact with other Synology Drive modules. So far, we have our HQ Synology NAS, and we've interacted with the Synology Drive admin console to lay the foundation of this environment. Our local users at this point in time can still interact with our Synology Drive server, our main HQ NAS, through normal file services like SMB, NFS, FTP, etc. So let's move on into section 3, taking a look at the Synology Drive web portal and its usage. In this section, we're going to focus on the web portal itself, which is that cloud-like portal that allows you to access your Synology Drive file server. And we're also going to take a look at Synology Office, which allows you to create and edit documents on the fly through this web portal and collaborate with your peers. One of the main benefits to the Synology Drive web portal is accessibility. If you have an internet connection and access to a web browser, you can interact with your data. On top of that, there's a short learning curve. If your users are familiar with other cloud platforms like Google or Dropbox, then they will find this interface quite intuitive and they will be able to work from it almost immediately. On top of that, you also have other add-ons such as Synology Office, which will allow you to collaborate with your peers and allows you to edit documents live, just like any other cloud platform, just you own this one. On top of that, you can also share your data from anywhere through this web portal, and there's granular permissions whenever you actually do the sharing. You can give your local users that you're sharing with permissions to edit or manage a document, and for your external users, you can also give them other certain restrictions whenever you provide them that link. So here we are on our main Synology NAS once again, and we're going to start interacting with the Synology Drive web portal. We're going to open it up with this Synology Drive icon on our main menu here on our desktop in DSM. Now we're going to see a warning about Synology Office when we open it this time. We haven't installed Synology Office yet, and we'll get into that feature in just a little bit. But now we're in our My Drive location, and we can actually create new folders in our My Drive spot if we want to, and start interacting with our data. Along the left-hand side, you can navigate between your My Drive location, team folders where you can work together with your team, and also any sharing you've done, either receiving sharing or giving any documents in a sharing link. You can also see your recent documents, any ones you favorited, and your recycle bin in case you delete anything. Now under My Drive, let's go ahead and create a folder. If we click create and go to folder, we can name this folder deliverables, for example, and begin adding data to that folder if we need. We can also upload files using this upload button. You could also do the same for folders too. So we're going to upload a bunch of files by going to our new data folder here. We're going to select all those documents right here and actually bring them into the Drive environment. Now, once that's there, they are viewable inside of this Drive environment. And if you right click them, you're going to be able to see all the other operations you can do in Synology Drive, preview, etc. But one of the main things we want to show everyone is the sharing options. So if you click share on the first tab for permissions, this is going to be mainly sharing for internal. So you can do private, only invitees access, or internal, anyone with account can view or edit. Now, if you want to do an invitee list, you have all kinds of different permissions you can apply to these specific users. So for Bob, for example, we're going to give them viewer access to this environment using the sharing link. Now, you can give them permissions with the dropdown, and as you hover over the selections, you can see what they will actually do. Now, Bob will be able to access this environment once we hit save. Under the public link, you can enable your public sharing link and disallow or enable being able to download and copy using a public link. You can also do password protection and validity periods on top of that. Now, once we've done all this, we can begin interacting with our team folder location as well. This is going to be where you do collaborative work with your other team members. So, of course, you can actually download individual folders from this team folder as well as files on top of that. So that's the main way you can interact with files and folders on Synology Drive without Synology Office. So let's go ahead and take a look at exploring that right now. Synology Office is a license-free add-on for your Synology Drive web portal, giving you access to Synology documents, spreadsheets, and slides. You can also convert your Microsoft Office documents into Synology Office documents to edit them and interact with them live inside of the web portal itself, and you can re-export those back out to Microsoft Office documents when you're done. Whenever you're actually editing these documents, the Synology Office documents directly in the portal, you can do simultaneous collaboration with your peers. When you're working on a document and someone else accesses it at the same time, you'll see a bubble with their name pop up on the top right-hand corner, and you can see where they're editing that document in real time. On top of all this, while you're editing the document, it'll also save your changes as you go. So let's go ahead and check out this additional add-on for the Synology Drive web portal right now. So here we are back in our Synology Drive web portal. We have Synology Office installed, so let's look at the new features that were added now that we added this specific package into the mix. So as you can see, we have those same deliverables, those PDFs, etc. If we go to the create option, you're going to notice that there is the ability to create documents, spreadsheets, and slides as well. And that is Synology Office at work here inside of the web portal. So we can also create encrypted versions of these files if we want. For us today, we're just going to click on the regular documents, spreadsheets, and also slides. If we open up the document here, we can begin labeling this document. We're going to label this one group work and actually interact with some partners here. And then you can begin editing this document. As you can tell, this document editor is quite intuitive. If you've used other cloud-based web portals like this in the past, like Google Drive, this will look pretty familiar and be easy to learn how to use. So now, as we work through this document, you're going to notice that all changes have been saved on the top, just like any other cloud platform. And as you click File, you can see all the different options that you have along the side. The main thing that you're going to be interacting with is sharing, etc. But you also have the ability to look at versions for this file. So I've already edited Hello World here. If I look at the versions, I can see the document back when it was blank. Now that we've messed with this document a little bit, you can see that we have some other users starting to join this document. You can see them popping up on the top right hand of your screen under those little bubbles. And you can also see where their cursors are on the document itself. So you can see our team member actually editing this document here, starting to build out a to-do list, for example. Now, once you're all finished with collaborating on this document, you can then, of course, download it as a Microsoft Office document if you need. And once that's done, you'll be able to view it just as a normal .doc file, for example. So you can see that file open now in Word. Now that that's all done and we've downloaded and converted that document, let's see what it looks like whenever you convert a Microsoft Office document into a Synology Office document. So back on our main Synology Drive screen here, what we're going to do is actually upload a file once again, specifically a Microsoft Office file. So we're going to go to Upload Files here once again and select this document here. Once that's all done, you'll be able to see it in the Synology Drive environment, and you can right-click it and convert to a Synology Office file here. And you'll see a Synology Office version of this file, and you can immediately jump in and begin editing it as you see here. Now that we've seen Synology documents at work, we've done some collaboration with that, let's check out spreadsheets as well as slides. Keep in mind as we go through this, you can also collaborate on these two different modules, just like the documents, and you can see where people are editing things. We're going to be focusing on some new features in the spreadsheets and the slides specifically. So right here, you can see we're on our main Synology Drive environment. We're going to click and drag a document into the web browser this time to upload it, and this is going to be some employee sample data, an Excel file in our case. So what we're going to do first is go ahead and convert this to a Synology Office file and then open that new spreadsheet that we created. So once we open this employee sample data and this is all loaded, you're going to see some alerts for some brand new features in the spreadsheets module for Synology Drive. You're going to see that you have the ability to do pivot tables now with your data. So what we're going to do is actually explore that. We're going to insert our pivot table here and actually select where we want to put this pivot table in the spreadsheet. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to select this second bullet point and go ahead and insert a location for this. We're just going to do it off to the side here. Now, once this is all done, the pivot table menu will open up on the right-hand side. And now you can see all the different values that you can begin to add to the pivot table and get some quick analysis done of all this data. So what we're going to do for the rows is add our business unit, and then for values, we're going to do sum of annual salary. So we can see each business unit and how much it costs in terms of salary. And once we have that all completed, you can see the results of that pivot table on the top right-hand side. So Synology Office spreadsheets are a powerful tool, especially with new and advanced features like pivot tables. Now back on our main Synology Drive web portal page, we're going to go ahead and create a slideshow inside of Synology Office. Now once this is open, keep in mind as we work through this slideshow that if you do want to collaborate with your peers, just like spreadsheets and just like documents, as they log into this document with you, you're going to be able to see their usernames pop up as bubbles on the top right-hand side, and you'll be able to see cursors of where they're actually editing this slideshow. So you can utilize this to create presentations with your peers. Also, you can easily create sections for your slideshow and collapse those as needed to keep things organized. So let's go ahead and review. We have set up our Synology NAS as a main Synology Drive server at our HQ. Our local users can still interact with the server through normal protocols like NFS, SMB, etc. But now we've also interacted with our Synology Drive web portal, meaning we can have remote users across the country even interacting with this web portal and collaborating with your in-office peers. In fact, Synology actually utilizes Synology Drive in a very similar way internally. We have our main HQ Synology NAS all the way in Taiwan, and our US offices and other offices around the world all use the Synology Drive web portal to collaborate. Now we're going to take things a step further, moving on into section 4 for multi-site scalability. Before we take a look at section 4's agenda, I'd like to make it clear that Synology has a wide range of products for businesses both large and small, so that you can actually scale your deployment as your business grows. You can start off with a smaller device that offers business-level functionality in a SOHO form factor and either expand that unit out with expansion units or migrate to ever larger units that can expand to multiple petabytes in terms of storage in an SA series or an HD series, for example. So this, alongside ShareSync, which we're going to talk about in this section, allows you to grow your Synology Drive environment as your business does. Now, going over the agenda for this section, we're going to start off with ShareSync, and this is what will allow you to sync data between multiple Synology NAS themselves. The reason why this will help with your scalability, aside from actually expanding out into ever larger Synology NAS, is because it'll allow you to add additional regional offices and have them brought into the same Synology Drive umbrella. We're then going to take a look at the Synology Drive client for Windows and Mac devices and show you how you can sync data, even on the go, with your Synology Drive server. And likewise, we'll take a look at the mobile device and some of the new features that are available there, alongside syncing data with those mobile devices like Android and iOS. With Synology Drive ShareSync, this is the application that will allow you to sync your regional offices with your central HQ Synology Drive server in a hub and spoke format. These syncs can be bidirectional or one-way as needed. You can also do file size and type filtering, allowing you to restrict what files are actually synced across in each individual task. Lastly, there's also file conflict handling. You might have multiple offices editing and saving a document at the same time. If you do so, you can have Synology Drive's ShareSync handle it such that the most recently saved file version is retained and any other saved versions are also renamed and retained on top of that. So you always have all the copies. Now, if you need true file locking for CAD or other design applications, you can definitely do so, but it will require other services like HybridShare with Synology C2 storage. We'll touch on that a little bit later. So let's check out Synology Drive ShareSync in the next demo. So here we are on our main Synology NAS, and we're going to be setting up a ShareSync scheme so that we can have multiple sites in lockstep with each other. So what we're going to be doing is actually synchronizing this multi-site file server folder we've been interacting with several different sites. We're on our main Synology Drive server right now, so we're going to need to hop between two different other ones to actually set up these tasks. So we're on a new Synology NAS here that you can see on the screen, and it's called Violet. And this is the one that we're going to start our first sync task with. And our second device for our second node is going to be the exact same process. So as we open up ShareSync, we're going to begin following through with this wizard. We're going to type in the remote NAS address. I'm using our Quick Connect ID in this case, and you can also use a domain or DDNS. And we're going to select what folders we want to sync across. When we do so, we're going to be able to edit how these folders were actually syncing if we select the folder and click the edit button. Once you do so, you're going to be able to select what folders you actually want to sync across, and this gets as granular as individual subfolders, etc. You can also do a file filter similar to the user sync profile templates, just like before. And you can also change your sync mode, either doing a bidirectional or one-way sync. And if all the NAS are joined to the same domain or another identity service like C2 Identity, you can also sync your domain privileges across. So now what we're doing is we're letting this finish out, and you can see that we are connected through ShareSync to our main Synology NAS, our hub server in this hub and spoke setup. And we're already getting alerts on the top right saying that we have some documents being updated in our Synology Drive environment. So now what we do on this brand new Synology NAS that we just connected, if we go to the multi-site files server folder, you can see all that data is now synced across, and you can begin interacting with it at a completely different location on a completely different NAS. And that's the power of Synology Drive ShareSync. Now, if we want to add additional nodes, it's the same exact process. Log into the client side, the remote node, and then link it to the main hub location utilizing that ShareSync task. Now, if we go to the Synology Drive admin console and look at the overview and the client list, you'll see that we have a couple different devices now paired back to our Synology NAS through ShareSync. We have done the same process on that other NAS. That is the Minerva NAS that you see on the top-hand side. So we have multiple different nodes synced together with that multi-site file server option, and we can begin adding data on any side of this entire relationship with our local file protocols like NFS or SMB, or we can go into the web portal, for example, and upload data there, and it'll be synced across to everything else in this environment. So as we go to this multi-site file server folder here, and we click Upload for Upload Files, we're going to be able to select some new data and watch this actually sync across to the other sites. So now we've uploaded these 46 items here. We're going to clear this browser alert first. And once that's all finished, you're going to be able to see all that data on pretty much every side of this environment once that sync process is done. As we dive in, you can see we have several different icon folders for Synology Drive, for example. Now, if we go to another NAS, you're going to be able to see this data on that other location. So we're going to hop over there to our client-side NAS. If we drill down into that multi-site file server folder that we have already set up in ShareSync, you can see those other photos in this folder that we synced across when we added it to the portal. And again, you can do this with any other file protocol like SMB, for example. If your local users add data through SMB to this synced folder, it'll sync across as well. It's just now you have that next-gen file server option with Synology Drive tacked on to the other file server operations the Synology NAS was already capable of. Now with the Synology Drive client, this is going to be what allows you to sync endpoint PCs with your Synology Drive server. It allows you to sync bidirectionally or one-way if needed, and you can do on-demand sync to save space. That means that you can have the sync task set up, but all those different files and folders aren't actually taking up space on your local machine until you actually request that data. This Client also supports file level backups, which is great for those road warriors out there that might not head to a regional office to use another application like Act Backup for Business. You can use file level backups inside of the Synology Drive client if needed for those cases. On top of that, you also have easy sharing from directly inside of the client. For Windows, for example, you can right-click, go to More Options, and actually generate a sharing link of the Synology Drive documents and folders directly from inside your operating system without having to go through the web portal. So let's go ahead and check out the Synology Drive client and setting up your sync tasks. So here we are on our Windows PC, and we're going to set up a sync task with this remote worker, and they're going to be connecting to one of our satellite office nodes, that being Violet in this case. So we're going to actually select the option for creating a sync task. Keep in mind, they could also do a backup task if they need to do backups at the file level, but we're going to be just setting up a sync task today. We're going to choose another Synology NAS and use our Quick Connect address in our case to make things nice and easy. Keep in mind, you can also utilize external IPs, fully qualified domain names, or do it through a VPN connection if you need to. We're using Quick Connect today. Now it's going to go through testing this connection, etc. Keep in mind that while we look at some of these advanced features like on-demand sync, they are also supported in Mac devices on top of that. So once this is all done testing and we click allow here, we're going to be able to set up the actual sync task itself. Now that we've clicked allow, we can choose what folders we actually want to sync from the NAS at that satellite location. So we're going to go ahead and click change here and choose that folder. We're going to be selecting our multi-site file server folder and just sync the entire thing with this local device so we have access to the entire file server, even offline if we need to, depending on if we've pinned files locally. Now, once we've selected that, we're also going to choose where we want this to live on the local device on the Windows PC. So we're going to actually choose our desktop and create another subfolder to sync to on the desktop in this case. We'll just name it Sync with Violet. You'll notice a checkbox at the bottom to create an empty Synology Drive folder. That creates it inside of the Sync with Violet folder in this case. We don't want that. We just want to dump it directly into this folder, so I'll deselect that in my case. Now, on the next screen, we're going to be able to choose some additional settings and that kind of thing with the actual sync client. But for most cases, that's all you have to do to set up the actual sync task itself. And we can open up that local folder on the Windows PC and actually see all those folders and files listed. However, you'll notice there's a status column with a cloud icon. And if we right-click one of these folders and go to Properties, you're going to see that it actually has 0 bytes on disk. That means that it actually isn't actually fully living on this PC yet, but it is available on demand if you have an internet connection. So we can actually go and right-click, go to More Options, and go to Synology Drive and pin this locally. And that'll force all of the folder contents to sync down to this local device and actually live there now. So once that's all finished, we can drill in and see additional files and subfolders, etc. And if we back out to the main screen and actually choose Properties once again, you're going to actually notice that it now does take up space on the disk because you've brought it down from the Synology NAS, utilizing that Synology Drive option. Now keep in mind, if you have a cloud icon next to a file and you double click it to open it, it'll automatically bring that down from the Synology NAS if you have an internet connection like you see with this photo. Now, once that's all finished, you can actually do a couple other Synology Drive operations from directly inside of the operating system, for example. So we could choose one of these different folders or files, for example, and right-click, go to More Options once again, select the Synology Drive option, and actually generate a sharing link from directly in the operating system without having to go to the Synology Drive web portal, for example. So you could actually create a local sharing link for your local users or do one for public users as well, just like we saw with the web portal demo. Now, once that's all finished, let's go ahead and create a folder on the client side here and have that sync through the client connection back to our main Synology NAS at the hub, for example. It's going to sync with Violet first, and then that will sync with our hub NAS and then out to any others. So you notice we're renaming this folder and we're getting Synology Drive alerts showing you that the application notices that you've added a file and renamed it. Once we've done all that, let's go back to our NAS devices. And we'll see on our multi-site file server folder here that that file that we created and renamed is already there. And likewise, if we go to the main hub NAS, you'll notice in the Synology Drive admin console and the logs there that we can see those file changes occurring real time. So we had a endpoint PC syncing with a satellite office. You created a document on the local PC side that synced with one of the satellite nodes that synced back with the hub and then out to any other clients connected to it, showing that even remote workers can interact with this next generation file server. Next, let's take a look at the Synology Drive mobile apps. This works for both Android and iOS. You can actually set up backup and sync tasks with your Synology Drive server from these different mobile devices, taking care of your photos, etc. You can also generate your sharing links directly from inside these mobile apps in case you're on the go. And you can also edit Synology Office files directly on the Synology Drive mobile app as well. Next, a new feature in the Synology Drive mobile app is the ability to document scan. Very similar to other cloud-based platforms, you can actually take a photo of your specific documents that you might have in hand with your Synology Drive mobile app. It can be converted into a PNG or PDF, and the contents of that document would then be searchable. So let's go ahead and check out the Synology Drive mobile app. So here we are on our mobile device, and we're going to begin setting up its relationship to our Synology Drive environment. As we log in here, you're going to be able to see all the different data that we've been interacting with so far. For example, under Recents, you can see that client sync document we created in the previous demo. Under the Files tab, you can see the My Drive location, as well as the Team Folders options here. You can see that multi-site file server folder we've been interacting with a lot so far. So we can interact with any of this data in here immediately as long as we have an internet connection. Some other great features that you have on the Synology Drive mobile app are actually located under the More tab on the bottom right. As we enter into this menu, you're going to see that there's some backup and sync task options. So we're going to enter into that menu as well, and we can set up photo backup as well as sync tasks. Under photo backup, once we enable that, we can change how this backup task actually runs, perhaps only over Wi-Fi or only back up new photos taken after you actually set up this task. Once that's done, it'll back up your photos based on the settings you created in that menu. Likewise, under sync task, whenever you go to create it, you're going to have a lot of the same settings, like making sure the sync only runs over Wi-Fi or putting a cap on the file size that you're actually syncing. You can also choose what remote pathway you want to sync with and a custom pathway locally that you want to sync to. So for the remote location, we're going to do that team folder, the multi-site file server. And for our local pathway on your device, we're going to just put it in the documents folder on the phone. Some other great features that you have in the Synology Drive mobile app is the ability to, of course, upload folders and files directly from your phone if they're already on it, but you can also scan documents into your Synology Drive environment utilizing your phone's camera. And whenever you do the scan, you're actually going to take a photo of the document, and it's going to take it as a PNG or a PDF. And you can actually adjust your detection results to grab different blocks of text, and then that text is then searchable in Synology Drive. So now I can take this block of text and search for this FS6400 model name, and it'll automatically pull up this document because it's indexing all the text that it detected. This shows you how flexible the Synology Drive mobile apps is with photo backups, sync tasks, and document scanning, making it truly a private cloud tool for your users. We went over quite a bit in this section. Let's go ahead and take a look at where we're at in the full build now. We have our HQ Synology NAS as our Synology Drive server. We have local users there that can interact with that NAS over normal protocols like SMB. But this server also has things like the Drive web portal and ShareSync enabled on it. So our satellite offices can actually create ShareSync tasks and sync with that HQ Synology Drive server, bringing those different satellite offices into the Synology Drive umbrella. Now, local users at those offices can interact with their file server data on those satellite office NAS and have those synced right back to the Synology HQ hosts and out to anything else that is connected with the system. On top of that, you can also have remote workers or mobile workers using the Synology Drive client or the mobile app and have them syncing with their respective NAS. Now, if you need to add additional offices in the future, you just add another Synology NAS there and set up a Synology Drive ShareSync task, again, adding additional NAS to this greater Synology Drive environment. So let's take a look at some other pointers that we have for doing global file locking if that's something you need, particularly if you're utilizing any CAD programs. One of the applications you're going to need to use if you do need that global file locking is something called Hybrid Share. Now, this was a new feature that came out with Synology's DSM-7, and it uses the Synology C2 Cloud, particularly Synology C2 Storage, to create a hybrid share environment. Now, with this, it essentially replaces ShareSync by having the Synology C2 environment as the central syncing hub. And what that means is that C2 itself can control the global file locking. So what this would look like in our build, we would have the same satellite offices, but instead of those ShareSync pathways, those would be essentially replaced with Synology C2 Storage and Hybrid Share, and all the satellite offices and HQ would sync with that central hub. And that central hub would control things like file locking. So we went over quite a bit today. Let's go ahead and recap. We started off by looking at the different tools available in the Synology Drive environment. We then moved into the admin console and really laying the foundation for our multi-site deployment. We then explored the Synology Drive web portal and how you can access your Synology Drive environment from anywhere you have a web browser and collaborate with your peers through the Synology Office platform. We finally took a look at a multi-site deployment and how you can do so with your endpoint clients as well as mobile applications. Now, if you need help past what this webinar provided, go ahead and check out our Synology Partner online training page. We have hours and hours of video content there. You can also check out our knowledge base, and we have step-by-step guides on a range of topics. If you need help past what those resources provide too, go ahead and send us an inquiry, and our highly trained inquiry team will get your questions answered. Now, if you're a business user with your own internal IT team, go ahead and reach out to onboarding@synologyamerica.com, and we can get you additional assistance. If you're a channel partner, reseller, etc., go ahead and reach out to sac_sales@synology.com, and we get you connected with your technical account manager. And lastly, for our friends across the pond, if you have any UK offices or UK clients, go ahead and reach out to uk_sales@synology.com, and we can get you help there too. With that said, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.